Welcome to Fortyborn, the limited Lorcana podcast. We're a gaming veteran.
And another gaming veteran.
Explore all things Lorcana. With a focus on limited formats, we cover set reviews, strategy guides, and stuff that nobody asked for. Let's get those Stitch playmats. Today, we are joined by a legend of the Atlanta TCG scene. He dominated the local Magic scene for years, played on a couple of pro tours, and now he has taken the plunge into the world of Lorcana. He's won some XKs, he's split some XKs, and he recently got second at the SCG Con 5K in Atlanta. But most recently, he won 3 consecutive set championships just this weekend, back to back to back. Online, he goes by Noimnot, but in person, he goes by Kendall Burdette. Welcome to Fortyborn, Kendall. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good right now.
Yeah, are those playmats keeping you warm?
Yeah, I'm currently, I guess, like wrapped up in them.
Yeah. Do you think 3 is enough, or are you gonna, just try to get the full 7 or 8?
Yeah, I was originally signed up for 7. So I've done 3, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I got one coming up Wednesday and then another Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I got 4 more bullets.
And you're hoping to take 4 more down.
Yeah, I think I was like I signed up for 7 and I was like I bet I could probably get 7 stitches and I'm gonna guess 3 or 4 playmats maybe. And I don't know. I guess I'm 3 for 3, so
Yeah, I mean, so far so good.
kind of getting there.
And I was considering going to that one on Wednesday night, but thank you for making sure that I did not attend that. I played I made the mistake of playing in 2 of the set championships that you were in this weekend. And while I knew that the champion mat was off the table, I was hoping to at least get second. And instead, I got 10th in both of them. The competition was tough out there for me, but people aren't here to hear how I went. People want to hear how it went for you. So on Friday, we both played at Gubu Hobby, and then on Saturday we played at Level Up Games. And then where did you play on Sunday?
I played at Peach State Games.
Okay,
It's a little more
nice.
local to me, but there was also another one as well at Level Up.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of tournaments in Georgia. Like Georgia's been pretty good for Lorcana, and there's a lot of strong Lorcana players just in Georgia. So
Yeah, the Atlanta Lorcana scene is very strong. It's very I would say established, very competitive, but everyone I met was incredibly kind. We saw very different metas between Friday and Saturday. And you said that Sunday was also different. What did you notice as a difference between one set championship and the next?
yeah, so Friday at Gubu, it was like what 37 or 38 players.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I didn't, go around counting each individual person, but it looked like half the room was literally red purple,
Yeah, that's
which
not
was
net.
which was surprising because I hadn't
Yeah.
seen a tournament like that in a while. It's kind of been dying down online, and even like at paper tournaments, there's not that much red purple, so it was pretty crazy, I guess. But and then yeah, the one we played in Saturday, there was a lot of aggro,
Like
uh, a
hyper
lot of
aggro.
a lot of hyper aggro. I think just in the top 8, like there was 3 Mufasa decks. 2 were red yellow, 1 was green yellow. And then I played a purple yellow hyper aggro like in the finals. That was another hyper aggro
Yeah.
or another aggro deck that would have been there. And just in general, there was a lot of green purple in that tournament too.
Yeah, you're
Um,
talking to one of them. Uh, and then how did
and
Sunday look?
yeah, today Sunday was there was a lot of steel. Like I played it was smaller, um 16 people, so it was only 4 rounds cut to top 4, but my rounds went green steel, blue steel, yellow steel. I played yellow steel in the top 4 and then I played blue red in the finals. So it
Wow.
was a lot of steel. There was a lot
Yeah.
of steel in that room.
Yeah, that's I'm glad I wasn't in that room. I think blue steel is my toughest matchup playing.
Hmm.
I've been playing green purple. I'm just a Artifacts. I just watch all of his streams and just copy all of his things. The only thing I changed was adding the two Tinkerbell to try to counteract the Ruby Amethyst and make that matchup a touch better. And that really paid off for me on Friday. I mean, I didn't make top 8, but I definitely picked up a couple of games I shouldn't have off of her wings. But you
That was
ran
the
Ruby. Oh, go ahead.
that's the Ruby, or sorry, the Emerald Tinkerbell.
Yeah, so she gives something else evasive. So
Hmm.
she was excellent when I could do turn 3, like turn 3 play a fox, or if I had a snake out, and then turn 4 I could play her and take out my opponent's mini that just quested that turn.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That happened like I did it just thinking, okay, I've seen Artifacts do this. He hasn't steered me wrong yet, so let me just try it. And I think it happened 4 times over the course of the weekend, where turn 4 I
Hmm.
was able to take out my opponent's evasive mini, and it ended up picking up a game against the McFasa player that made it to the finals, or not the finals, in top 8 both nights. But yeah, Ed, man, he was nice, but that McFasa list he had was nasty on me, man. He wiped the floor with me with all of his enchanters and all of his foils, but it was brutal.
Yeah, that was Ed.
Yeah, great guy.
He's yeah, he's another good guy. He's won a Magic GP. So again, going back to, there's a lot of strong Lorcana players just in the Atlanta scene because we have a great Magic scene as well. But and so a lot of the Magic players have kind of ported over to Lorcana.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Um, I mean it's very similar to Magic. The game is like more simpler in a lot of ways. So I mean, it's easy to pick up if you've played basically any TCG before. Uh, and yeah, I mean, I there are some diehard Atlanta Magic people, uh, and then there are some that are not so diehard, and they're kind of get the feeling that people are just kind of tired of Magic, or
Yeah.
willing to try something new. And then I know people, I have friends, they play both.
Yeah.
So they'll grind a Magic tournament one weekend, and then when the next local tournament is a Lorcana tournament, they'll play in that. So
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with playing multiple games. I play a lot of different games.
Yeah, that's totally fair. The guy I was super impressed by this guy I played at Gubu. You played him, I believe, in the finals. He's a
Hmm.
Yu-Gi-Oh player. This was his first ever paper Lorcana event, and he
Right.
lost to you in the finals. I thought that was
Yeah.
really impressive.
Yeah. I don't remember his name. I know who you're talking about though.
Drew, I think was his name.
Drew, yeah, that's right, that's right.
Yeah,
I'm pretty good with faces. I'm terrible with names, but yeah, I mean, he played pretty well. Like I said, like if you have played any other TCG, Lorcana the rules are simple enough where you can pick it up very fast. And then, um, it's the more you play it, the more like kind of depth you see to the game. And I think obviously right now we only have 3 sets, so like
yeah,
yeah, it doesn't have the same depth as Magic that's been around 30 years, and they have different formats, and those formats have infinite number of sets like included in them. So eventually it'll get to that point, but yeah.
yeah. So far, so good though. I'm really
Hmm.
liking this meta. I think it's the most fun I've had playing Lorcana. But something that has not changed from set to set to set is something I wanted to chat with you a little bit about, because I think of you as sort of the Ruby Amethyst master in Lorcana. Set 1, set 2, set 3. You've not deviated once every single tournament, right? Every tournament
Right.
you played Ruby Amethyst. So at the set champs, it really surprised me when you were playing Ruby Amethyst. So when selecting your list for set champions, did you consider anything other than red purple?
No.
That's fair.
Uh, yeah. It is the only deck I have in paper. Now, if I felt like I should play something else, I have, friends in our community that um, wouldn't mind lending me cards and I could, easily build something. But I just like playing red purple, Ruby Amethyst.
Yeah.
It's my play style. And so that's kind of like what I prefer to play. Like I play like mid-rangey control decks. That was my play style in Magic. I've never been an aggro player. Uh, so you won't really find me on aggro. Um, but yeah, online, like on Pixelborn, I'll queue up a game or two with like some other decks. I did play Red Yellow Mufasa for a little bit and like Blue Red. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it wasn't really any decision, um, any other decision than Ruby Amethyst. Like you said, like SCG Atlanta was just here, and I made the finals with that in the 5K.
Was it the
Um,
same list?
it was the same list except in that tournament I played 4 Surfer Mini and 3 of the 3 cost Maleficent. So I switched those two around.
Yeah.
So that for this weekend, I've playing the 4 Maleficent and 3 Surfer Mini. Same list. I have it posted.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm probably just playing the
Yeah.
same thing for the upcoming ones too.
Yeah. It ain't broke, you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so you've Ruby Amethyst has changed, I would say, quite a bit from set one, set two, set three. Um, looking forward to set four, is there a particular card that you hope to replace in set four? Like you're like, I play the thing that I'm thinking of. You play Teeth and Ambition because you have to. Like it
hmm
is a good card, but certainly they could create a better version of that card. Are there any particular cards in your current 60 that you would hope to replace in set four?
Um, yeah, I think like so a lot of people don't play Teeth recently. And I've still been a fan of Teeth. Uh, but I wouldn't mind cutting that card if there was something better. Um, I'm not sure how good Be Prepared, like as the format has continued to develop, it's continued to get like faster and faster, and so it's making Be Prepared just look worse and worse. Uh,
Yeah.
because seven ink is a lot for a wrath effect. Um, and so eventually, like I mean, that might not even be good enough. So
And
I've had thoughts. Not I'm not doing this anytime soon, but I could see a world where eventually, we're not playing Be Prepared anymore or something. Hopefully, maybe there's some grab your sword esque effect in those colors. Not necessarily straight on Wrath, but cheaper. And I've thought about cheaper edict effects as well. Um,
yeah.
I'm not a game designer though, and I would probably make
Yeah.
some just busted cards in my particular colors that I enjoy playing.
No, that's totally fair. Or it maybe something like Elsa's freeze effect, but across the entire board could be helpful. Um,
hmm
yeah, I think that Red Purple currently has a lot of fun, like a lot of interesting tools, and it's been cool to see it shift from like a pure control list to what we have now, which is like a mid-range with like a splash of control. I don't know. It feels more like a mid range list to me at this point, but that's kind of just semantics, honestly. Um, I was going to ask, what do you think is currently Red Purple's most favorable and least favorable matchup?
Oh man. Most favored matchup. I literally responded to a tweet to this earlier this evening. Someone asked me, is blue red favored into red purple, or do you just outplay them? And I responded, red purple doesn't have any good or bad matchups, and so I think all the matchups are pretty close. Uh, Even when they are bad, I don't think they're bad by a considerable margin. Um, so good matchups, I don't really know. It would have to be the mirror. Just another
Nice.
red purple player, and you play better than them. Like you outplay them. Uh, the only bad matchup, or the which can still be winnable, but I feel seems to be bad, are Amber Steel flutes. So I'm quite happy that the most recent meta has been Amber Steel moving to Pride lands. Thanks Zan, and also Lantern as well. Lantern is a little bit more scary because they can still be explosive and they start abusing Lantern with Whole New World.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, yeah, it's pretty obvious red purple has no way to interact with items. So yeah, bad matchup, Amber Steel flutes.
Good matchup.
Great matchup,
Be good at the game.
everything. Yeah, just be good and grind your opponents to dust.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I think is interesting about the current meta because to me, when somebody brings red purple to an event, they're not implying I have a good read on the meta. They're implying I feel really confident with this deck and I think I can just beat you. And that seems to be working quite well for you, as we've seen over the course of the weekend. If you look at your matchup spread, you've played every iteration of everything and came out on top. You haven't lost a match yet. Um,
No, I think I'm 17 and 0, 18 and 0 on the weekend, which pretty crazy for me, but yeah. I mean, I still had a great weekend at Star City even the what was that last weekend.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. I think you might be good at this game. Um, I I was gonna ask, how do you think red purple will be impacted by a two game format? If I look at your record over the weekend, you have quite a lot of 2-0s, but I don't know how many of
Uh-huh.
those are tied to skill disparity and how many of those are tied
Yeah.
to red purple being a good list. So
Yeah.
going into just a two game format, assume I'm thinking about you and I are both playing in Atlanta at the end of May at the DLC. Do you I'm trying to think of how to ask this. How much does the change in the format impact how you approach deck building and gameplay? Or does it impact anything at all for you?
Yeah. So, if you're looking at my results this weekend, I did have a lot of 2-0s. If you scroll through my Twitter, there are a lot of 2-1s. And I have played in one of the TIA online events, and they have recently been best of two, or
Mm-hmm.
the two game format. Um, I'm a bit frustrated. I'll just say like outright, like I don't really like the two game format. Uh, and I feel part of that reason is because of the deck I like to play. uh, Red purple does not have polarizing matchups. A lot of your games are just won by like grindy games, and you win them, you know, just by small margins or whatever. Uh, and so because of that, a lot of times you win your matches 2-1. So when you play two games, this means that you're probably going to win the majority 1-1. Um, so I think that affects how you have to build the deck. And so something that's happened more recently, like for a while, the Surfer minis had kind of disappeared, and now they're back. And that is just so that you can win games fast, uh, and win games in general.
Yeah.
To be more aggressive, you know. Um, so you have to take that in consideration, like how you're going to win your games. Because in that format, 2-0s matter a lot. So uh, I've put thought into it as far as like when I'm playing in Atlanta. Again, like I haven't played anything other than red purple. I know I'm a good player and I could play anything pretty well. But I'm like, you know, should I take red purple? I mean, the plus side is that day two is best of three,
Yeah.
and I feel like okay, well, if I can just make it to day two, I have a pretty good shot. Because I'm just like it's most comfortable in best of three, and really, I guess if you're coming for Magic, you are more comfortable in best of threes. Um, I'm not too familiar with a lot of other games. As far as I know, they're mostly best of three. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah. So I will more than likely play red purple, and if I do well in day one, I'll feel really great about my chances. And if I don't day two, then I'll feel like I made the wrong choice. But the plus side to that, I guess, is set four is getting close, and I got a ticket to Chicago, and Chicago will be set four. So that'll
Yeah.
be a whole new meta, anyways.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of things could change, I guess, for that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that totally makes sense. I'm interested to hear your perspective on the two game format because you've played in probably hundreds of games that follow the best of three format. Um, I've heard a lot of people have concerns about this format's ability to truly find the top X% of a tournament player group, like a group of players.
Hmm.
Um, is there any verity to that? Do you feel like that is a legitimate concern, or do most of your concerns come from the side of it doesn't favor the particular list that you like to play?
Um, so it's not necessarily just because it doesn't favor my list. Uh, I could I could be playing some other deck, you know. I could convert a day two in every single two game format tournament. Like if I, top 16 to every single one of Tia's online tournaments, I would still have the same thoughts on the format that I'm just not a fan. A lot of people have voiced their opinions about this online, but I think people's main issue with it right now is that 2-0s are a little too rewarding. Like 3 points is a
Yeah,
little too rewarding. Um, so like obviously you're more incentivized to go 2-0. The 1-1s, the draws or whatever they want to call them. Some people don't call them draws.
yeah,
Uh, the 1-1s, you just kind of feel like there wasn't. It's the same thing as just getting an unintentional draw. I
yeah.
mean, you just don't feel like there was a clear winner. Um, right at, it just feels like this awkward like moment at the end of the match. Like, all right, well, I guess
Good
that's it.
games.
Yeah, good games.
So I've heard a lot of people say that a pain point with the two game format is that there's not a clear winner each round. Ravensburger claims that the goal of a tournament is to find the best players over the course of a day, and the two game format is capable of doing that. Do you feel like the fact that there's not a winner each round means that they're not able to actually find the best, or does it just feel bad? What is the thing that you personally dislike about the fact that I win a game, you win a game? I know that would not happen in real life, but in this, in this theoretical scenario where we're playing each other, Kendall, I win a game, you win a game. At the end, it feels bad, right? Is that the only problem, or is there a concern that you think with that as a tournament structure, being able to find the best players in the room?
Yeah, I think that the draws leave you wanting to find like a determined winter. Sorry, a determined winner. Um, you just the people's argument that you go 2-0 against somebody. If you're gonna win the tournament, you should 2-0 everybody, and that's not the case. There are matchups that are close to like coin flips or something like that, and I don't think this is just based off die roll. The mulligan plays a huge part in Lorcana. That's like a whole nother topic we can get into.
It's on my list. Don't worry.
Yeah, so it's just games. I just feel like games cannot be decided in 2 games. Like you just need a determined winner in 3, and um, there you're not always going to 2-0 your opponent. So when 2-0s are getting 3 points and then you just get 1 point for a tie, it feels pretty close to a loss.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, and again, like I said, I don't think it's just because I feel like red purple might not be favored into 2 games. Because 2-0s are possible, but to me it incentivizes a whole different type of format.
Yeah.
As far as like everyone should just bring polarizing decks. You should just be trying to blow your opponent out of the water, and completely ignore like what they're doing, kind of thing. And if that's their goal, um, then cool. But some people like interacting, I guess, with their
Yeah.
opponents. Or we can just sit down, play games of solitaire, and see who can go 2-0 the fastest or something like that. I mean, one thing I agree with is that the 2 game format is a little bit better in pairing strength of players a little quicker. So by rounds 3, maybe 3 or 4 in a 2 game format, you might be paired against somebody with similar skill level. Whereas in a 3 game Swiss tournament, that might take until round 5. It's very easy
Yeah.
that someone could be a little less experienced to even
Yeah.
be like 4-0 or something. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like the cut to day two, the fact that they're switching to best of three, I think signifies to me that they're at least aware of the fact that best of three at that point is necessary, right? Like it almost feels like they're like day one is the sorting hat from Harry Potter. Like everybody, you got to play through, you got to get your points. Every
Hmm.
match matters, no draws. Uh, like just you got to play all 9 rounds, and at the end, cut on points. Now I hope that they cut on points like flat. Like if you have 20 points, you're in. Like I hope that they don't
Yeah,
do weird stuff with tiebreakers, but they probably will. But I do
yeah,
like that day two
they
will
haven't
be best of
announced.
three.
Yeah, they haven't announced that. The original cap was what 512,
Yeah.
and they said it was a cut to top 32, which I thought was interesting because tournaments like this where it's like a day 2 cut, those tournaments have normally been the wording would have been, cut to top 32 or players tied for 32nd. So if
Oh,
you had
okay.
the same record as 32nd place, but let's say that goes down to, 45th or something like that, then 45 of those people would make day 2.
Yeah.
Um, so it's interesting that they worded it that way. I'm assuming that meant 32 people specifically, and I don't know how many people bubble out at that cap of 512.
Yeah.
But yeah, I imagine that number changes. I haven't seen anything, so I don't know if if this information's already out there. But I haven't seen anything with the increased cap, what the day 2 cut will be. It kind of makes sense, for them to just set a point threshold.
Yeah.
Um,
That makes sense to me.
yeah,
Um
or
these
or like I said, at least to have cut to X number of players and whoever has the same amount of points as that last spot. So if it's cut to top 64, cut to top 100, and they have 18 points, everybody else with 18 points, if it goes down to 300 people, they all make day 2. And obviously
yeah.
they'd have to have a larger bracket since it's just single elimination for day 2. So,
Yeah. I'm hoping to make day two, but we'll see. You you used a phrase there, bubbling out. I've been seeing that
hmm
online. Could you explain that for Taylor, my co-host who's listening at home?
hmm Bubbling out. Yeah, bubbling out normally means that you have the same record as, like, in this instance, what the record for making day two would be. So X and two,
Yeah.
like let's say you had an 8 round tournament, it cuts to day two, and they say, X and two record makes it. Um, I guess the other term for that would be, uh, normally, or whatever record makes top eight, and normally like ninth and 10th place will have the same record. So they don't make top eight, but um, they have the same record as people in top eight.
Kendall, I'm trying to
Uh,
not cry over here, bud. I bubbled out twice this
you bubbled
weekend.
out. You bubbled out. You had the same record as top eight.
Yeah, I was 4-2 in at Gubu, and that was what
Hmm.
eighth place had, and then I was 3-2 at Level Up, and that's what eighth place had. But
Yeah,
so that's bubbling out. I'm very
yeah,
familiar with it,
not a
and I'm
good.
interested to
It's
see how they
not. It's
handle it
not a
in
good.
Atlanta.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling. Like I said, that's like, so to put in perspective, like if we take the original cap of 512 and they said top 32 is the cut, let's say 32nd place got 18 points, but all the way down to top 100, everyone had those same points. So the people that performed just as well as the 32nd person don't make this the second day. Normally, it's a little bit more understandable for like top eight cuts, um, because it comes down to tiebreakers and stuff after that. But
Yeah,
for just like making day two of a tournament, it would feel bad if that many people didn't make day two because they didn't say, you know, tied for that same record,
yeah,
for a
for
day two
sure.
cut.
For sure. And I've seen some discourse online about intentional draws. I
Hmm.
think that for a lot of our players or for a lot of our listeners, the set championship is their first foray into competitive scene at all.
Hmm.
And so when in these mid-size events, these aren't mid-size, these are small events, the set championships, where they're having like 4 or 5 or 6 rounds of Swiss. Um, could you explain why people intentionally draw? Because it sort of ties into this bubbling concept.
Um, yeah. So people normally intentionally draw to secure a spot for top eight. Um, you're awarded 3 points for a win, you're awarded 0 points for a loss, and you're awarded 1 point for a draw. So if you intentionally draw, you guarantee yourself 1 point. And in these like small events that are 5 or 6 rounds, um, normally what that can entail is you start off going undefeated. Let's say it's a 5 round tournament. You start off going 3-0. Normally, you can draw your last 2 rounds, and still make top eight. Because at that point, because of your 3 wins, you've secured 9 points, and just by drawing 2 times, you would have 11 points, making it like mathematically impossible for people at the lower tables to top eight. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, I think that some people are. This is the first time they're experiencing it, and it's the part that's frustrating is, you can end the Swiss with just as many wins as somebody that ID'd 2 rounds in a row. So then those early round wins feel like more than later round wins. But what would you say that? Do you feel like there's any verity to that argument? You went 3-0 at the beginning, and I lost my first two, and then I won three in a row. But you ID'd two in a row. You're guaranteed a spot in the top eight. Um, do you think there's any truth to that, like arguments, or is it just part of the how the tournaments work? Sometimes it just is the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, I I I think it's just the way that it's been. Like, that's
Yeah,
how it was when I first started playing Magic. I've just been kind of used to it. Now,
yeah,
I played Flesh and Blood for a little bit, and when I first played Flesh and Blood, I believe you were not allowed to intentionally draw. And they kind of realized that, like, they really kind of had no control over it, and
Yeah.
eventually, like they let people draw. Um, it's not to keep people out of top eight or something like that. Uh, a lot of times it's literally for mental.
Yeah. Totally.
um, like in the tournament today, I intentionally drew my last round and I went and got some food, which is like, yeah, for the people not making top cut, that doesn't really matter. They get to leave afterwards.
Yeah.
But that's good if you're in top cut. Like you can take a break for a minute before you're in the top cut matches. Um, but even if I didn't draw that last round, if we played win or lose, like I still make top cut. So that's why people normally just save that time, just to mentally prepare for their top matches. Um, it Because they've started off undefeated and how tiebreakers work and such, they're basically already locked for a top spot anyways. So why not, just like I said, save some mental.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that it's just been sort of jarring for some people that this is their first time. Um,
Hmm.
and they're like, "Wait, you want to we like they're playing well and they're like, "Wait, why would I not play these games?" And it's like, "Well, we
Yeah.
could go get some Chick-fil-A." Um
Yeah.
uh,
I think another, I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but another thing that might be foreign to people is splitting, like in top eights.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think I think it's kind of cool with these set championships because you technically can't split these. You know, it's not a cash tournament, so you can't say, "Hey, we'll divide this by 8 and everybody go home."
Yeah.
So you have to win your top 8 match to even get the Stitch card.
Yeah.
And then, the finalist, they're both playing for a playmat. The winner's playing for the champion playmat, and second place is getting, the same playmat without champion. But splitting is kind of maybe foreign to people. I remember people posting tournament results, the first Lorcana tournaments and stuff, and probably people newer to TCGs were confused about why are these people, why is there no winner of the
Yeah.
tournament?
Yeah.
Like, why are people splitting? So it's good for them for these set championships because there are just clear winners if that's what they care about.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, some people. So you might split if people aren't familiar with this. Again, it's for mental. Especially when there's a lot of money involved in tournaments. You don't want to have the weight of playing for some, crazy amount of money. Like I'll give you an example. The Star City 5K last weekend.
Mhm.
Winner gets $1,500. Loser gets $700. It was no split up until the finals there. And so when you think about it, you can both split and walk away with $1,100, or you can play a match of Lorcana for $800.
Yeah.
And that could be a lot of money for some people.
Yeah.
Um, Traveling also comes into account, like I've gone to tournaments in Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, and it's been a 3-hour commute. If I make top 8 of a tournament and it's 7 p.m. and I still got to drive all the way back to Georgia, you know, I might want to split some part of that tournament so I can get home before midnight.
Yeah. That's
um,
totally fair.
yeah, so I've played some tournaments out fully. Like I've played some 1 or 2Ks out fully, and I've split a lot of top fours and I've split finals. I've split some top eights. I mean, it all really just depends. But um, yeah, like I said, if you just think about it, it can the swings and however it pays out, it can be a lot. Like if we don't split top eight, I walk away with $75. If we split top eight, I walk away with $300.
Yeah.
Like again, that could be the difference in somebody's week.
Yeah.
Really just kind of depends.
Yeah, I've never been playing a game of Lorcana for, $700 on the line, but I can
Hmm.
I can imagine the concept. Um,
Yeah, if you want to think about these Stitch promos are kind of crazy right now.
yeah, it is a little unbelievable. I thought they'd be like $100. But
Yeah, this probably isn't a finance podcast, um, but Friday when we played at Gubu, I valued those promos, like I don't know, 2 to maybe 500, not really knowing. And while we were playing Friday, there were some sold for $1,200 online.
mm,
So again, this is another reason to split because if you think about your top eight match, well, not your top eight match, but if you think
come
about
on,
a
dude.
top, if
Hey,
you
come
think
on,
about
Kendall.
if
You
you
don't
think
have to
about
bring it
a
up.
top eight, if you think about a top eight match at this Gubu tournament, the winner of that top eight was going to get a $1,200 card, and the loser was going to get 4 packs of Lorcana. you know,
Yeah,
so
pretty brutal.
that's a situation where you might want to split because it's $1,200 or nothing. You could both walk
Yeah.
away with $600 kind of thing.
Yeah, you just agree to someone will sell it and you'll split the money. And
Right.
that gets tricky if you don't know the person, but it's helpful if you're playing against, somebody that you know in real life or have a way to
Yeah.
get a hold of them.
Yeah.
No, but that's
Definitely.
cool. I think the this tournament structure is confusing for a lot of people because some of it does feel counterintuitive. Um, because yeah, it's like sometimes it's like you're gaming the game itself, and like the intentional draws feels weird, and like the bubbling thing feels weird. Like how do the tiebreakers work? All that stuff can be a little bit confusing for newer players. Honestly, a lot of it's still confusing for people that have been doing it for years. So I think when when you're in these situations, for our listeners, uh, I find it helpful to just don't let people talk you into something that you don't want to do. Like if
Yeah.
you want to play it out. But also don't let people take advantage of you. I've seen people, like if it's like a kid or somebody that doesn't really feel ready to stand up for themselves, sometimes they can get in like a weird situation. But a lot of the time, the people that are up there at the top eight are cool, and everybody's just kind of tired and wants to go home. So if somebody suggests splitting or not playing, I've seen the other side of the coin, where the person that it's suggested to is almost kind of like offended as like a newer player, like, "Oh, you don't want to play me? Like, you're quitting or whatever." But it's not like that. There's just a lot of money on the line at these higher level events, and especially once we get to like Atlanta and stuff, each of those promos are going to get more and more rare. I don't know what drawing is going to look like. We haven't done anything like that, but it's helpful for you as a player to know what you're playing for, what it's worth, and what your options are. A lot of people wouldn't consider drawing on purpose, but a lot of times that is the right choice at these lower level events.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say
I
on that, Kendall?
No, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily take offense to it if you don't quite understand it. Um, Maybe just be open-minded and you can have someone explain it to you. Like you said, you know, if you're not comfortable with it, don't feel pressured either. Like, just you can you can decline. That's also
Yeah,
perfectly fine.
yeah,
I had an opponent at one of the set championships who wasn't familiar with it, and so I mean I explained it to him, and the table next to him, explained it to him as well. So he just didn't understand. It was his first event, and so we drew and like we played for fun while we waited.
yeah.
Uh,
Those fun matches aren't quite as taxing on the brain side of things.
yeah.
Um, So something I wanted to ask you that ties into this two game format concept is something that tripped me up this weekend. It cost me a game, which cost me a match, which cost me a top eight, which is mulligans.
Hmm.
I miss mulliganed in a game. I was playing against hyper aggro and I didn't know, and I was a bit too greedy with my mulligan, and it ended up costing me game one. I took game two, and then they were on the play again in game three, and I just couldn't keep up with the hyper aggro approach. Now, I can't blame everything on the mulligan, but it made me think quite a bit about mulliganing blind in a 2 game format, because in a 3 game format, the first game mulligan is important, but you still have 2 more games where you know what you're playing against and you can mulligan appropriately. So I was wondering if you had any tips on how to mulligan blind. Like, you don't know what your opponent is playing, you know that they don't know what you're playing. I've heard some people say that you should assume that your opponent is playing hyper aggro and mulligan accordingly. I've heard some people say that you should assume that your opponent is playing your worst matchup. Like, I should always assume I'm playing against blue steel. But I was wondering if you had any sort of heuristics or rules of thumb on how you mulligan blindly. Because in a 2 game format, you need to win both games to get most of your points, which means game one, you need to know how to mulligan appropriately when you don't know what you're playing against.
Yeah. The mulligan is. I'll start off by saying the mulligan is very powerful in Lorcana because it is a selective mulligan. Where like we don't have that coming from Magic. Um, by selective, I mean you can keep any number of your cards. You throw those back. I mean, I'm sure you know how mulligan works. And the other big part to that is you're not shuffling those cards that you're choosing to mulligan until after you've up to drawn up to your new hand. So that can be very powerful in the fact that you don't have a chance of seeing those cards that you're throwing away at all. So in the blind, um, it it's obviously gonna it it varies from whatever deck you're playing. Um, in the blind, you're gonna the first thing I would suggest is you're obviously gonna mulligan for curve. I think the biggest thing in Lorcana right now is that you're mulliganing into a 1, 2, and 3 drop. Um, is probably the most important thing in any matchup for any deck. And then it starts to get a little bit more weird with some people might over mulligan, they might overthink it. I'll give an example. We'll give a Ruby Amethyst example here. Mulliganing a Maui on the draw. Uh, if you have a 1, 2, and 3, keep the Maui and just use it as free ink, because like what are you really trying to mulligan there for? Some people might just send that back. And in this format in particular, it's a lot more risky because of the introduction of like the 2 drop Ursula and Bare Necessities, and with a lot more whole new world decks going around. So over mulliganing with Ruby Amethyst, for example, is a little uh, riskier, because if you over mulligan and you mulligan into a Be Prepared, that first Be Prepared is gone. So you want those in your deck. So definitely think about the first thing is mulliganing for curve, and then the second thing is like what else are you digging for if you have those 1, 2, and 3. Now it's perfectly fine to send back 6 or 7 cards if you don't have a 1, 2, and 3 drop. You need to be like mulliganing for those aggressively. Um, but if you have that in your hand, like what else are you trying to get? And generally, I mean, there isn't an answer for that.
Yeah.
So if you have those, keep the Maui in your hand and use that as an ink. Um,
So if you're playing, no, that those are all really good points, especially the point about like thinking about what am I digging for? Like, if
mhm.
you have a curve and you have inkables, like what are you pitching for?
Yeah.
And if you have cards in your deck you don't want to draw, like if you're playing red purple and you don't want to get it be prepared. I've never really had to think about that because I play green purple, and so I don't
hmm
have be prepared, but I'm sure Artifacts would, have some thoughts on what I should and should not be doing with my mulligans. But I was gonna ask, like, let's say that you don't know what you're playing against. What are like the ones, twos, and threes that you're looking for in Ruby Amethyst, and why? Like, you're playing in a vacuum, you don't know what you're going up against. Do you want Olaf or Rafiki for turn one?
I'll take any one drop in the
Just
dark.
do you keep two though? Do you keep both of them, or do you
Yeah.
just want one?
I'll keep 2.
Okay.
I'll keep 3 1-drops in my hand. Like I said, if my opening curve looks good, I'll keep 3 1-drops in my hand, right? Like you're gonna play the first one out, you can like ink your first 1-drop, play the 1-drop. You only have 1 1-drop in your hand now, you know, and that's more than likely gonna be ink. And you play all the bounce effects. So okay, you're gonna play a snake on turn 2. So you pick you ink the 1-drop on turn 2, pick the 1-drop up. You still have 1 1-drop in your hand, and more than likely that'll be your ink on turn 3.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, like you're looking for any 1-drop. That's gonna be Olaf or Rafiki. If you're playing Teeth, obviously you want Olaf. Um, Cusco on 2 or Snake on 2. Like if that's a good 2-drop. And those are the
Hmm.
only 2 drops you play right now. But and then your 3, I mean it can be Fox. Fox is really great. But against some decks, the bounce might not be that important. So that's where Maleficent and Surfer Mini are there. The Ruby Amethyst itself is just kind of like flooded on 3s.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of options there at 3. Really, the most important thing is trying to get to a 1 or 2 drop.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
And I guess the biggest reason for that is normally you just want to be interacting with your opponent as early as
Hmm.
possible, because if you can make it to the mid to late game against most decks, that's generally where Ruby Amethyst kind of like comes online and can take over a game.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. I think most of my losses, like reflecting on most of my losses over the weekend, and granted, I'm playing green purple, which is a different list, but a lot of our purple cards look the same. It's just because I didn't have a 1-drop on turn 1.
Hmm.
And that's just kind of devastating when you're playing the bounce package. Like not having access to enough 1-drops at the beginning of the game can be kind of crippling.
Yeah, the bounce package is very powerful, as in the Madam Mim package. Uh, but yes, if you don't have a 1-drop, it's hard to get that to start rolling.
Yeah, for
The
sure.
snake has to have the 1-drop to come and play. You have to if you don't have a 1 or 2 drop and your only 3-drop happens to be Fox, like you're not doing anything until turn 4.
Yeah.
So in a lot of games, you're just dead if you're not doing anything until turn 4.
Yeah. That's definitely true. I found myself in that case in round 1 on Saturday.
Hmm.
Um, so I was gonna shift to talking a little bit about limited while we have you on the podcast, and then we'll wrap up. Um, what is your experience with limited formats in Lorcana so far?
I don't have a lot of limited experience. From what I've played, I've enjoyed it. But not that many places in Georgia that I know of offer it. So far, I've done a draft. I've done a s- uh, a sealed release for Inklands. That was
Nice.
pretty fun. And then the only other time I've had was during the first set release. Um, I bought like 2 boxes and I took it up to my LGS and invited one of my friends to teach her how to play. She was interested in learning how to play. A very good Magic player, and we just opened up 6 packs each through the 2 boxes, like built sealed decks out of the 6 packs, and like played a few matches with each of those decks, and then like we cracked another 6 packs each. We just built like multiple sealed decks.
Yeah,
So that was
that's
like
fun.
probably the most limited I had, and like the most fun. But I mean, from what I've played, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that you've enjoyed it. I mean, obviously we enjoy it. We make a podcast about it for the most part.
Hmm.
Um, but I wanted to pick your brain on a topic that you have a bit of experience with, which is the concept of a mixed format event,
Hmm.
where on the Pro Tour and Magic, and in some other, I think Flesh and Blood does this as well. At these high level events, it's not just constructed; it's also limited. So if you want to top 8 at an event, or if you want to make day 2, you have to play draft and you also have to play constructed, or you have to do sealed and you also have to play legacy or whatever. Um, do you think something like that would work in Lorcana, and would you be interested in Ravensburger incorporating that into high level events like nationals and maybe worlds.
Yeah, I think it could work. I would be interested in it. I wouldn't be shocked, like I said, or I wouldn't be shocked if uh, Nationals or Worlds was announced as a split format. Um, it, it's not something that's like new to me. Uh, I would like to see. I don't know how set in stone their limited is as far. The main thing that stands out to me about limited is no color restriction. So I don't
Yeah,
know if that can be revisited or what. Uh, I would like, I guess, your ink choices to matter a little bit more.
yeah,
Um, Synergies are very important, like in limited, but it's just kind of weird that you can play any colors.
yeah.
Uh, I don't know if 2 colors is too restrictive. Maybe like you limit it to 3 colors or something. But I would be interested in playing uh, a big tournament, like a 2-day tournament where, the first 3 rounds is draft. Um, if one of the challenges was sealed, that'd be really cool too. I think that's something that's very familiar coming from Magic. They have,
Yeah,
large tournaments where you build a sealed deck and that is your tournament. That's your tournament. And normally when you make day 2 of those tournaments, it's followed by 2 drafts. You do your first draft and then the second draft, and then the top 8 is normally a draft as well. So
that would be a dream. That would be the dream for us. Yeah, I think regarding the color restriction, I've heard some good ideas proposed. The best one I've heard is something similar to what Star Wars Unlimited does, which is you have like your core 2 colors, but then any extra colors that you want to incorporate into your deck, you just have to pay like an extra tax to play those cards. So like
yeah,
if you want to run a purple card in your red green draft list, it just costs an extra 2 ink to play it. Something like that.
yeah,
Um, because it would be nice to see it tighten up a bit where the actual drafting process requires deck construction on the fly that is a little bit more in depth and a little bit more aware of your surroundings. I think that's something that people really enjoy from Magic that's lacking in the draft aspect of Lorcana right now. But we'll see. I haven't tried it, so I can't really stake a claim on if it's better that way. But I would not be surprised if Ravensburger is actively investigating alternatives to the current draft format, and I'd love to see it premiered at an event or hey, next Lorecast if you want to fly me and Kendall out, you got a couple of you got a couple of testers right here that are happy to draft some Lorcana.
yeah,
Um,
definitely. I mean, it's great that the game is like still new and it's got plenty of time to change. Like nothing's really set in stone,
yeah,
so they can
no,
evolve
that's
the limited format. Hopefully they evolve the 2-game format. Uh yeah.
yeah. Um, Now, something that I wanted to bring up is you offer coaching, correct?
Yeah, I've recently offered coaching. It wasn't something I really thought about before. And I've had a few people reach out to me. And then because of that, I was like, okay, if there seems to be this much interest, then I'll sort of advertise it. I haven't advertised it on Twitter. It is advertised in the 20 Lore Pro community. And then I believe Zan's community, the Club Lorcana community, is also looking to set up coaching as well. So, but yeah, I've been doing coaching and I've enjoyed it. Um, it helps me in like a different way as well too, like just seeing how other players think. Um, but yeah, I've kind of enjoyed like helping people out, and it's a little rewarding in the fact that like this weekend with the set championships, a couple people that I've coached have secured, play mats and stitches. So it's kind of like even if I didn't win, which I mean I have won, but it's cool to see, and they've thanked me, because they felt like, it's helped them. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
You heard it here first. Guaranteed Stitch playmat included with your first coaching session. Um, so what does TCG coaching typically look like? Like if somebody was to reach out and request coaching from you, what does a typical session look like? Is it like a repeat thing? What does the flow typically look like for a coaching arrangement?
Um, for me, I mean, what you get out of it or what it looks like for somebody can be different from each player. What they're necessarily trying to like improve on, I guess. Um, and it's normally been repeated over the span of like a few weeks, depending on just like availability or whatever. Um, I think it just really got popular with the set championships coming up. I think people really wanted to practice and like hone in on their skills with these championships coming up. I don't think there'll be that much demand again until after the next set. Um, but yeah, so like at first, like obviously trying to figure out what your goals or what you're trying to look to improve. Um, and typically players have found it most helpful to start off with like I'll have them normally record, 3 to 5 games or whatever, and we'll meet up after that and do like a video review of their games. Um, and this is also a little bit more helpful because you're not under the pressure of like a timer on
Yeah.
Pixelborn. Um, so it lets me, like pause the video, talk about certain lines of play, why that may or may not have been correct, what might have been what might have been a better play, um, things like that. And again, like I said, the mulligan being the biggest thing in Lorcana to me, which makes the difference in most games. I think what sets like good Lorcana players and great Lorcana players probably is their ability to mulligan correctly. So that's the biggest thing I like to go over too, is just to see how they're mulliganing, and talk about those. So typically when we first start out, it is going over the mulligan a lot, um, and then we get into game reviews. Eventually, we'll work into live games, stuff like that. Uh, but yeah, it seems to work out for the people that have reached out. So
Sweet. That's awesome. Yeah, I've never done any coaching, but that sounds great. And it sounds like a lot of time investment on your part as well. Um, I was gonna ask, where, like, so just to reiterate, what would be the best way for people to find you to request coaching?
yeah, if you're interested, I mean, join the 20lore.pro community
The
if you
Discord?
haven't. The Discord, yeah.
I
Join,
can link it in the show notes.
yeah, join the Club Lorcana community. I'm in both of those Discords. You can find me. So from there, you can DM me on Discord. And then
Okay.
also, yeah, or reach out to me on Twitter. My Twitter is at actual no, I'm not. Um, I'm open to accept DMs there too. But even if you're not looking for coaching, I think joining those two communities are probably like um, can be like really beneficial to you because there's just tons of people in there discussing competitive play, stuff like that. So
Absolutely. And if you're just trying to get better, especially if you're planning a Ruby Amethyst list, I know that this will be worth your money. Maybe skip a box, skip a box or two and spend a little bit of money to get some coaching. I think a lot of times as players, I know for me, it's easy to convince myself that the reason I'm not winning is because I can't afford that fourth Ursula for my deck. And in reality, I'm not winning because I don't know how to mulligan properly.
yeah, I mean, and it's not just me either. I like to think, yeah, I'm a great Ruby Amethyst coach. But for you, like in 20 lore, Artifacts is literally advertising to help people out for coaching. And so if you came to me wanting help on green purple, I would probably just point you in that direction. I can help you with, general game theory stuff like that, and possibly help with the mulligan. But he's more experienced with that deck, so I wouldn't try to coach you too much on that. But
No, that totally makes sense. Um, all right. Well, wrapping up, you and I are both from Atlanta, and the DLC for Atlanta is not that far away. Um, I was gonna ask if people are coming into town for Atlanta from out of town. Do you have a couple of restaurant recommendations you think they should hit up while they're in town?
mm, um, it's gonna be a little bit outside of Atlanta, like away from the venue. But if you're renting a car, if you're flying in, and or split the Uber or something. Um, I had buddies come up from Florida for that CCS tournament. They really
Hmm.
enjoyed the Marietta Diner.
Okay, nice.
Guy Fieri, is that how you say it?
I can never say it right.
Yeah, the Guy Fieri, the diners, dash and dives guy. He's
Yes.
all over the place in there. Like it's a good place. They have a pretty big open menu. Uh, Another cool place that would be worth checking out is Battle and Brew. Uh, they've opened a new location in It's called the Battery. It's the
Yeah.
area right around the new Brave Stadium.
Yeah.
Battle and Brew is very, very cool. It's like a video game bar. They have a bar.
Sweet.
You can rent out consoles by the hour, computers, stuff like that. So it's cool to like go with friends. You can rent uh, a I don't think it's a Switch, but like the Wii, Xbox, PS5, whatever. They have all the consoles.
Yeah.
And when we went, we were with a group of friends and we played Mario Party for 3 or 4 hours. And the food was actually like really good. I was surprised. Uh,
Heck yeah.
so even for it being like a little bar, the food was great.
Yeah, I would second those. Yeah, if you're going to stay close to the actual venue, I there's not a whole lot of restaurants super close to there I'd recommend. I'd
Hmm.
actually recommend just eating at some of the food trucks that are going to be out nearby because MomoCon's also going on that weekend, the anime convention. Um, and so there's definitely going to be some good food trucks floating around that space. If you have a car, I would just say go to Buford Highway. Like anything on Buford Highway is going to be good. It's like where all of our or a lot of the best international food is in Atlanta. There's a barbecue place somewhat close to downtown Atlanta called Sweet Auburn. That place is pretty good.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
haven't been, but I've heard of it. I've heard it's really good.
yeah. I mean, it's over in Five Points, which is kind of a cool area, anyways. So Sweet Auburn's good. Gaja Korean Bar is one of my favorite places in town to grab a drink if you like Korean food and just like cool cocktails and a good vibe. It's over in East Atlanta, which is like maybe a more eclectic part of the city, but it's a really cool spot. So if there's any specific Atlanta recommendations you want, I like food. I like talking about it. You can reach out to me and Kendall. Kendall can coach you how to play Ruby Amethyst. I can coach you how to find good barbecue in Atlanta. We charge pretty similar rates. Um, but Kindle, to wrap up, you want to do a pack one, pick one?
Yeah, I can try.
Yeah. So normally for a pack one, pick one, me and Taylor will just say something that we've been enjoying recently that week. So maybe a TV show we saw, or a good meal we had, or maybe just a highlight of the week. Now we know that you won 3 set championships. So other than that, do you have a pack one, pick one recently? Anything you've been liking that you want to recommend to others?
Yeah, outside of Lorcana, pack one, pick one is World of Warcraft, Season of
Okay.
Discovery.
Nice.
Um, I play retail World of Warcraft as well, but Dragonflight is on the back end. Like we're getting ready for the new expansion. But I've been enjoying playing Season of Discovery with my friends. Uh, New phase just opened up, and so it's like a new raid.
Okay.
Um, but
Is that
yeah.
like an expansion for WoW?
So Season of Discovery was like it's like a fresh release of the game. Um, another release of classic World of Warcraft, so similar to when it released like way back in the day, like a fresh start. But
Uh-huh.
they've made like some changes, so it's like classic with some changes.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
so what they've kind of done is kind of make it as close to original WoW as possible, but then they've also added like a little bit more power level, taking like some inspiration from more modern day WoW, basically.
Sweet. Yeah, the WoW, I was really into WoW for a month and it just consumed my life so much I had to cut it off cold turkey. So I
Yeah.
have never gone back. I loved it so much and I was like, "Whoa, that was dangerous for me." So I'm happy that you can enjoy it at a reasonable, responsible level, like an actual adult. Um, no, that's a good pack one, pick one. I guess for me, um, I'm wrapping up a trilogy, or I have wrapped up a trilogy called the Greenbone Saga. It's a book series that I've been absolutely loving by an author named Fonda Lee. It's fantastic. It's like imagine like a fantasy version of Japan, and then imagine that The Godfather happens in that country. So it's about a war between two rival like mafia families over the course of generations, over the course of 3 books. And it's fantastic. I highly recommend it. If you're looking for some cool fantasy that's sort of modern, it's like a very fresh take on a lot of fantasy tropes. And I really like it. So that would be my pack one, pick one. So check out World of Warcraft, Sea of Discovery, and uh, the Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. Not a sponsor, but reach out if you want to, Blizzard. Um, okay, well, hey, Kendall, thank you so much for your time. It was great meeting you this weekend. I'm bummed that we didn't get to play each other. I'm sure it would have maybe not gone the way I wanted it to, but I like learning, so that's what I could have told myself.
Yeah. I mean, it might have been for the better, but maybe at the next ones.
You can find Kendall on Twitter at actual no I'm not. You can find us on Twitter at Fortyborn. Be sure to give us some good ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. That really, really helps the algorithm. It helps us rank higher when people are looking for our podcast. And yeah, come find us in Atlanta. And congrats to you, Kendall. Congrats to our listeners that have landed playmats. And hopefully next weekend, everybody can get a few more under their belt. We'll see if Kendall can get the full 7.
Yeah, stay tuned.
All right. Bye, y'all.